ask you to write an application, you would think for a moment or so, even though you have been writing applications since ages. The reason is A, you are unable to determine what kind of content should be there, and B, how you should format your application. Now, these two problems would be catered in today's class. Firstly, there are some concepts that need to be very much clear in your mind before you start writing a professional application. So let's start with the first important concept. That is the concept of block format or justify. Now, this is the example of block format document. And you can see at the end of every word, there is a uniform ending. Every word is ending from top to bottom in a straight line. If you want to make a square out of it, if you want to make a block out of it, you can make it very easily because everything is ending in a straight line. This is what you call as block format. What is a semi-block format? Notice this. Again, when we try to make a square, when we try to make a block of this document, is the ending is not uniform. It's going zigzag, which you do not use in application writing. You use this block formatting. Now the question arises from which icon or tab you can utilize this function. Now when you go to Word, you would see over here, there are 4 icons over here of aligning your content. This one brings it to the left, align left. This one brings your content to the center. This one's to the right. And this one, as you can see by its face, it's giving the picture of a complete square, of a complete block. So you're going to highlight your text and you're going to click this tab, and it's going to make your whole content justified, or it's going to bring a block format to your content. Now let's talk about the other concept, which is indentation, the space that you give before writing a paragraph. Now notice in front of you, there are 2 kinds of paragraphs. Let's go through them one by one. The first paragraph says, this is the first paragraph. There is no indentation in this paragraph. This is the right way to start a paragraph. Then you have a single line spacing. Second paragraph says, this is the second paragraph. Can you see some spacing over here before starting a new paragraph? There's a clear indentation in this paragraph. This is the wrong way to start a paragraph. What is the problem with this indentation? When you're writing an official document, you're making sure that you're not wasting the time of the reader. So the modern formatting says no unnecessary punctuation mark and no unnecessary white spacing. Now what happens is, when you give this spacing before writing a paragraph, again, you're trying to give unnecessary white spacing on the paper. So in order to make sure that the reader is facilitated and is not distracted, you avoid giving indentation in the modern formatting. The third concept, single spacing within the text. Now, when you open your Word document, just beside the tab of justifying and center and aligning, you would find this tab of paragraph. Now, when you would click it, it will give you plenty of options of spacing. Now, the universal spacing that you should be picking up is 1.0. Also make sure that you're providing single spacing within the paragraphs. Now, when you go to your Word, just underline spacing options, you would see there's add space before paragraph, add space after paragraph. If you want assistance of the computer, what you can do is you can click on these 2 options, and the computer would assist you every time you would switch to a paragraph. It would give the required spacing. But sometimes we want to decide by ourselves where the paragraph would start. So if you want to do it manually, ahead. But if you want the computer to assist you, you can click on these features and you can have your desired paragraph spacing automatically. Okay? Have a look at this example of single spacing within paragraphs. This is how spacing in a paragraph looks like. We should give one line spacing after every paragraph, and you can very easily see that I've hit enter once over here, and I have received my single line spacing. And then without indentation, I've started my new paragraph. Also write or type every paragraph without indentation, which is the part of modern document formatting. Also, when you're writing dates on your documents, make sure they are written in this format. You're going to write the month first, then the date, then a comma, and then the year. Also notice we do not have any dot or comma at the end of the date. Again, no unnecessary punctuation marks. So when you're going to write your month, please avoid writing it in abbreviated form. Do not write JAN. You're going to write it in full January 18, 2021. And this comma was a compulsion over here. Otherwise, I would have merged these two dates. Again, only necessary punctuation marks. Also, why we are not using unnecessary abbreviations, because again, when you're going to use a lot of abbreviations, it shows that the document has been created in a rush, in a careless manner. And of course, that gives a hint that the document has some kind of mistake in that. So we don't want to show that impression that our document might have some mistakes. Let's move on to the most ignored, the most forgotten concept on an application, that is the subject line. An application always have a subject line. It can miss any other feature, but the subject line is not to be missed or ignored or forgotten. Well, your subject line should be complete, concise, concrete. Your information should be complete in the sense all the important dates. If you're visiting a place, the name of the industry, the name of the organization, complete detail should be there. It should be in concise form. That is, only the important details should be there. And concrete over here means if you're talking about a particular date, it should be there in the subject line. You should not wait for the date to be moved to the content area. When you're submitting complete, concise, and concrete information, it should not be in the form of sentences. You are going to write phrases. For example, if you're writing a sick leave, you're going to start your subject line with request for sick leave, and just beside that, you can see that I've given you an abbreviation with effect from. Now you will be confused that I was just talking about not to use abbreviation. The rule of using abbreviation is use abbreviations sparingly. Sparingly means do not use them a lot. And secondly, most common abbreviations can be used. Now this abbreviation, WEF, stands for with effect from. And this abbreviated version is used with dates. So you can see after with effect from, I've used my dates. January 18 to 20, 2020. Also, notice over here that whenever you're going to use with effect from, you're going to use it for more than 2 dates. If you're using a single day or a single date, it's just going to be a request for sick leave on January 18, 2021. That's it. Also notice there is no dot or a comma at the end. Or, for example, if you want your paper to be rechecked, you can say request for thermodynamics paper rechecking conducted on. Now here you can see I'm giving complete concise information. I'm not saying only request for paper rechecking. I'm giving the name of the paper. I'm also giving the date on which that paper was conducted so that the reader does not face any difficulty in recalling the information and his time is not wasted. Also bold, underline, or italicize your subject line, double underline your subject line so that whenever the reader looks at your application, he is not confused that where does your subject line is placed on the paper. He quickly goes to the subject line and decides whether he's going to take the action or whether the concerned department is going to take the action. Also, whenever we start our application, our favorite starting used to be Dear Sir or Respected Sir. So dear and respected are outdated now. Respected. Now the question arises, if there is no dear, if there is no respected, What should be written in the salutation part? Well, there are a couple of options. You can start directly with sir or Mr. or madam or miss. When you're talking to a female, you're going to call her as miss. When you're writing to a female, you would say MS dot. Also, when you're writing sir, madam, miss, there is no requirement of name. These three salutation can exist independently. But when you're writing Mr., you have to add the name of the person along with it. Also, when you're writing the name of the person, it should be in full. It's not going to be Mr. Ali. It's going to be the full name, Mr. Ali Ahmed, or you can use the second name or the surname, Mr. Ahmed, but it's not going to be Mr. Ali. So you're going to take the name in full or the second name or the surname. You have another option. Some people use to whom it may concern, but keep it as an optional one because this salutation also seems to be rude, that you do not know whom you're writing to and you've used the statement to whom it may concern. Also, make sure you know the name of the person, you know his designation, you know his organization. That looks courteous. There are two kinds of starts when you are doing an application. You either start directly or you either start indirectly. Well, direct start is the correct start. It is requested that the applicants is blah blah blah, and an indirect start is that you start with either hello or how are you, hope you're doing well. Good to ask about the other person's well-being, but when you're writing a professional document, if you're asking about somebody's well-being, you're wasting his time. It does not look professional. You should start off with your direct concern. Let's talk about the famous closing. We have so many kinds of famous closing. The most famous one is thankfully. It's most famous because it's easier to close your application thankfully. Yours is not required anymore. That's a good news. Now let's talk about how to use these closings because again, there are different contexts where you use different kind of endings. Thankfully is a universal one. You can use it with anyone. Truly is used with a person whom you know. Obediently is used with a person whom you're writing in an academic circle. For example, your professor, your TAs, your teachers, your lecturers, and sincerely is used with person whom you do not know. So sincerely we do not know, truly with somebody you know, obediently in the academic circle. Before you submit your application, before you take out the printout, make sure there are no unnecessary abbreviations. Some abbreviations are required, fine with that, but not unnecessary ones. Font style should always be Times New Roman. Font size should always be 12. There should be no personal pronouns like I, me, my. Now, this is another surprise that I'm giving you. You are not going to use I, me, my. Well, but what are you going to use then if there'll be no I, me, my? Well, I'll just reveal it to you in a while. What are you going to use if there'll be no personal pronouns? But you can use we when you're writing it on the behalf of the class. There's no indentation, there's block format, there's single spacing, there is synonyms. Please make sure you are not repeating the words. For example, you said, I shall be thankful for the favor. And just after the sentence, you would make the closing thankfully. Now that would be repetition. So avoid repetition, use synonyms. No unnecessary punctuation marks and a space after every punctuation mark, especially when you're typing the application. This is how your professional application would look like. Now, I have chosen a very basic topic so that everyone would be able to relate to it. And the topic is sick leave. So let's see how we would generate this application. Whenever we start the application, you put the date first. You would then write the VC's address block, that is the Vice Chancellor, University of Engineering and Technology, Lahore, Pakistan. You would see I've written University of Engineering and Technology in full because no abbreviations. After Lahore, I've placed a comma and show the difference between the state and the country. Notice your V is capital, your C is capital. Let's move down. You're going to hit enter. You're going to get a proper spacing. You're going to write subject. You're going to type colon after that and then space. There will be no full stop after Pakistan. Subject, colon, hit space. because after every punctuation mark on the word, you hit space. Hit space, request for sick leave, S capital, L capital, because you want to emphasize what kind of leave you want to take, with effect from January 18 to comma 2021. So there'll be no comma, no dot here. Hit enter, single spacing, sir. Hit enter again. Please remember this phrase, with great veneration. Now, veneration is a formal word for respectfully. You could have typed with great respect, but veneration is a more professional, more formal word. With great veneration, it is stated that the undersigned, who is undersigned? Undersigned is a person who has placed a signature at the end over here. You're going to place your signature over here. And when you're going to place your signature over here, you would be called as undersigned. So it is requested that the undersigned has been suffering from acute influenza, high temperature since the past 3 days. He has been prescribed complete bed rest. Now notice this. I did not say I have been prescribed, because I just told you that in an application, you do not use personal pronouns. Also, this word undersigned shows that you have to say he, right? Because you're not using I over here. So you will continue with a third person pronoun, that is he. He has been prescribed complete bed rest, heavy medication for a week by the doctor. Hence, he will not be able to attend university premises with effect from January 18 to 24, 2021. Dot. Now we want to start a new paragraph. Hit enter. No indentation. The applicant. Now, I did not use the word undersigned again because I just told you use synonyms. So you're going to use applicant. You're not going to use undersigned again. The applicant shall be highly grateful if he's granted leave for the above mentioned period. Now notice, I have already given my period over here. So I'm not going to repeat my dates over here because repetition is discouraged in a professional application. When you're closing your application, when you're writing obediently, you're going to hit enter 4 times. You're going to hit 1, 2, 3, 4 in order to get some space for your signature. Let's move on to your signature block. Now here in your signature block, it says you're going to write your name, of course. You're going to place your signature over here. You're going to write your name. You're going to write your ID, your academic ID. It's a much better word than roll number. So you're going to say your ID, colon, space, whatever your roll number is, put it down. Put your department down. Put your university, complete name down. Always put your email address at the end. And please, when you're writing your email address, it should not be handsomehunk@gmail.com or papakipari@gmail.com. Make sure that your Gmail address should relate to your name. And if you're not able to find any Gmail address according to your name, you can easily find it with values. For example, Ali Ahmed 482 or something like that. So again, it's this kind of Gmail address is also acceptable if you're not able to find it exclusively with your name. Okay, and then at the end you would put your phone number, and the phone number format would be you're going to write +92 space 300, that's your country code, +92 space 300 space then your phone number. Now, why are you writing your phone number and email address? Because nowadays you can see everything has been digitized and people are preferring to write emails rather than calling you up and meeting because of COVID-19. So it's good to add your email address. So if you have a very important query, it can be easily answered through your email address, can easily be contacted through phone number. You have to wait for ages to get your answers. Now let's talk about the formatting. So firstly, your document should be block format. Highlight it, go here, click this, I click this tab, and it's going to be block formatted. Notice this, everything coming in a single line. Here, you can find your font style. I would click Times New Roman. I would also click font size 12. Okay, so I would make these two options. Apply to that. Let's move on to line spacing now. So I'm going to go to this paragraph section. I'm going to click 1.0, and here it will be applied to the whole document. Now here I can see some unnecessary spacing still. Now how to remove this spacing? Now The interesting thing is that even though I have applied single spacing, I'm unable to remove this spacing. Firstly, notice this block has no unnecessary spacing. So we can leave that. This this block, our signature block, is unnecessary line spacing. How would we remove that? You would highlight it, you would go to paragraph, you would come down, line spacing options, you would go to spacing section, and here you would make it 0. So when you make it 0, you'll be able to remove that unnecessary spacing. And also you would see that I've made all this signature block bold. You can only make bold. Please do not underline or italicize it. You're going to make your subject line bold and underline. I've done it here. So these are some important rules.